and welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric and this is the Volkswagen Touareg V8 TDI. It is a crazy engine. Just looking back, you have the V10 TDI and a V12 TDI. This is the latest generation of crazy diesel engines. So that means 421 horsepower, 900 Newton meters of torque, which slingshots this Colossus, which weighs over 2 tons, from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in under 5 seconds, 4.9 seconds to be exact, and a limited top speed of 250 kilometers an hour. Yeah, this is quite a beast. But by looking at the exterior and this black X edition paint, you might hear again an airplane, and that's maybe quite a good way to explain how this car feels when you accelerate. It feels like you're sitting in an airplane going from standstill. It accelerates hard, but it isn't violent. But once again, with this black X edition and the black paint, the front, which is quite extreme with this huge grills and vents, looks quite restrained, and these quite aggressively designed front lights are quite hidden. If you look at the rear, you have quite a different story, because it is more Audi, it is smoother, it's more roundish. With the black X edition, these are toned and these are toned, and this is also toned, but there are some details that are not toned, and there are actually real exhausts. The only way of knowing that this is actually a V8, this little badge and the lower lip here is in chrome, everything else in black. And the front is chunky, it's big, it's really bulbous in order to fit that huge engine, because it is actually quite an interesting engine. So V8, it is twin turbocharged, so one turbocharger is a bit smaller, one is a bit larger, but you have an electric supercharger to help at those lower revs. If you look and you see the Pirelli P0 tires, they are sport tires, and 285s both front and rear. And opening up the rear tailgate, you are met with quite a decent amount of space, no lip. Sitting here, wow, you have huge amounts of leg space. It is quite ridiculous. And with the 4-zone optional climate control, you can choose individually the temperature on the right side but also on the left side, and how the air should be aimed towards you. And you have maybe this real wood and these really nice LED strips that are around the interior, and this optional panoramic sunroof. It is huge, it's almost more comfortable and nicer to be transported in this car than to drive it, which is not something that I say in a lot of cars. And by closing the door, you have soft close as well, huge cylinders for the rear tailgate, and you can have option with this car has an electrically operated towing hook. It is rather quick. Like that. And then you can close it by like that, or just by pressing this button. So I'll get into the car. And just by sitting here, you are met with quite an old steering wheel. You can find this in older Volkswagens, Polos, Golfs. This center screen is it's aimed towards you. It's about 12 inches, and that makes it possible for Volkswagen to have a completely different layout. They don't need as much sub-menus, just because you have so much space and you can lay out things completely differently. It's really nice, chunky gear shift selector, just your hand, it rests so nicely. And I'll start the engine up. Quite a standard diesel sound. The seat moved forward because I have selected a certain seating position, which I can choose here. Piano gloss black around the interior. Two-tone here, so we have beige, and here is a bit darker gray. It is a nice place to be in, but I would like this digital gauge cluster to be a bit bigger to fit better with this center screen. Maybe connect them as Mercedes have done. But I'll continue driving and I'll set it into comfort and we'll head off. It is so comfortable. The air suspension just soaks up the bumps and unevenness on the road. But because you have quite wide tires and the tire compound is quite sporty, there is a lot of tire noise, which I wasn't expecting from a car that cost 90,000 euros, and with the optional paint and the panoramic sunroof. Yeah, it starts to run away with the price, but I'm now in sport and I'll just accelerate. It really moves along, but it feels like the traction control is restraining the car a bit. So for you to change this, you select into car configurations and then the e-assist system, and then you can choose sport or whatever. And that really changes how the throttle is applied and how the traction control works and how the car drops gears and like everything. It's so different, and that is how I was expecting sport mode to actually work. But that makes it impossible to use the cruise control. So if I press sport here, I can't use cruise control. So that's quite weird. Activating the cruise control, which has automatic distance keeping and lane assist, really well developed cruise control. It is very smooth in how it accelerates and decelerates. If there's a car in front of you, it's just pleasant to use. Nothing to complain about. That is how a cruise control should work. This little mode selector really changes how the car behaves. Now it's in comfort, it's more floaty, it's more of an old school way of doing luxury and how the car behaves. But going to sport, the steering wheel is noticeably heavier and faster, and suspension is also harder. Maybe a bit unnecessarily hard, but really helps when you're cornering, because now it has active anti-roll bars, which comes with the Black X edition and the V8. Going back to comfort and driving into corners, the steering is a bit on the slower side. It has been some situations where the steering is not fast enough for my liking. So I have to talk about a big question that comes up with huge engines, and that is of course the fuel consumption. And I have to be honest, as I've been actually daily driving this car from and to work, it is average around 1 liter per 10 kilometers. It is a thirsty engine, no doubt, but that's something I have to expect when you buy a car of this performance, this price range and things like that. If you buy this car, you do not care about fuel consumption. We'll go left here. And just the power. When you get into rev range, it really sounds like a V8 engine. Summarizing the car and trying to figure out what person this car is aimed towards, it is of course a fantastic car. It's comfortable, it's competent, it's just an amazing car, amazing feat of engineering. Do you want to buy a Volkswagen Touareg when you're looking at 90,000 euros? Maybe not. Speaking of the Touareg, Volkswagen has announced an R version with the V6 and the hybrid with 431 combined horsepower. It kinda makes this car dated. Because with the electric engine, you have that direct torque, and of course you have a lower fuel consumption because you can be in pure electric mode. So in all, I think it's a smarter package. This car, I have fallen in love with it. Even though it's vastly thirsty, it's such a powerful being. It's so effortless. All of the technical aspect of this interior is world class. You have heated and ventilated seats. One problem I found with the infotainment system was, especially with my phone, when I paired it Bluetooth and I tried to play a song, when I changed a song too many times, it just cuts off, and I have problems with Bluetooth. Some of my friends had no problems, but I have had a lot of problems. Worthy to note. You have dead angle assist, and you have 360-degree camera, and even when you're reversing the camera, when you're moving the steering wheel to its maximum degrees, the camera moves with you. It's like a computer game. The exterior is a bit on the restrained side with the black paint. I would choose a different paint if I were you, but that's of course for your personal liking. You can't deny how cool this blacked out look is though. The Volkswagen Touareg V8 TDI. It is maybe the last of Volkswagen's crazy diesel engines. I hope not. But with the introduction of hybrid performance engines, the diesel performance engines are on the downfall. There is quite decent competition. And do you look at a Volkswagen when you talk about luxury? Maybe not. And that's something I think that Volkswagen needs to wash away. They have a stamp on them that it isn't a pure luxury car, even though it is more of on the expensive side when you spec out them. But the car, once again, an amazing feat of technology that is getting a bit outdated. But I do love the car anyways. My name is Eric, and this is my review of the Volkswagen Touareg V8 TDI. See you next time.